Welcome to Stoic Philosophy for Life. This is not just a place to listen to books, it's a space to feel them with your soul. Here, we illuminate your mind with timeless lessons. Awaken your inner strength, cultivate self-minded discipline, and guide your journey of personal growth. Every word is carefully chosen to reach what you're truly seeking: peace, clarity, and lasting transformation. If this feels like the place for you, hit subscribe and walk this path with us every single day. Now, put on your headphones, take a deep breath, and begin the journey of renewing your mind and your life. How to deal with your negative thoughts. Have you ever had a single thought ruin your entire day? It starts as something small, a worry, a doubt, a regret. And before you know it, it becomes a spiral. You begin replaying old failures, imagining worst-case scenarios, questioning your worth. And suddenly the room feels darker, the weight feels heavier. You are no longer living in the present, you are trapped in a story created by your own mind. But here is the truth. Most people never tell you you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are not always true, they are not always useful, and they are not always yours to keep. So the real question is not, how do I stop negative thoughts? The real question is, how do I deal with them when they come, because they will come, again and again? That is not weakness, that is being human. But how you respond to them, that is where your strength lives. The Stoics knew this long before modern psychology. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." In other words, it is not what happens to you. It is how you interpret it. It is the story you attach to it. It is the meaning you give it. A negative thought is like a cloud passing through the sky. You can notice it, you can name it, but you do not have to become it. You do not have to build a home inside it. The first step is awareness. Most people do not even realize when their mind turns against them. They live in reaction. But when you can pause, take a breath, and say, "This is a thought, not a fact," you create space. That space is your power. That space gives you the freedom to choose a different response. Let us say the thought is, "I always mess things up." Do not fight it. Do not suppress it. Just ask, is that true always? What is the evidence? The mind speaks in absolutes, but truth lives in nuance. And most negative thoughts, when brought into the light, fall apart. Then comes the second step, reframing. Instead of saying, "I failed," say, "I am learning." Instead of saying, "I cannot handle this," say, "This is hard, but I have done hard things before." You are not lying to yourself. You are choosing a lens that empowers instead of weakens. Because you are not here to be at war with your mind. You are here to master it, to sit above it, to treat it as the tool it is, not the tyrant it pretends to be. And when you get good at that, at observing, instead of identifying, at challenging instead of accepting, you start to notice something powerful. Most of the thoughts that once crushed you lose their grip. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He did not write that to impress anyone. He wrote it as a reminder to himself during wars, betrayal, illness, loss. If he could practice this under that kind of pressure, so can you. But it takes practice. So start with this. When the thought comes, pause, breathe, name it, challenge it, reframe it, then return to the moment. Because the present moment right now is always more real than the fear in your head. Ask yourself, what am I doing right now? Am I safe? Can I breathe? What do I want to choose next? Every negative thought is an opportunity not to suffer, but to strengthen. Not to spiral, but to stand still. Not to react, but to respond. You will not win every battle. That is okay. It is not about perfection. It is about practice. It is about becoming someone who, when the storm comes, says, "I have been here before. I know this storm, and I do not have to believe everything it tells me." If you are still here listening, then like me,
You are done letting your mind run your life. You are ready to reclaim your peace. One thought at a time, you are ready to stop reacting and start responding. You are ready to become the master of your mind, not its prisoner. So next time a negative thought appears, do not panic. Just pause, smile even. You are seeing clearly now, and that clarity, that stillness is what makes you powerful beyond words. If this message helped you, share it with someone who needs it. And remember, your thoughts are visitors, but you decide who stays. Most people are haunted not by the world, but by their own voice inside. The voice that says you are not good enough. The voice that replays what went wrong, that whispers doubts in quiet moments, that tells you who you are, what you deserve, and why you will always fall short. This voice is not always loud. In fact, its most dangerous form is quiet and familiar. It speaks in your own tone, it uses your own name, and the worst part is we rarely question it. We assume if it is coming from inside me, it must be true. But that is a lie. Just because a thought feels familiar does not mean it is true. Just because it is internal does not mean it is wise. And just because it sounds like your voice does not mean it is your truth. Here is what the Stoics taught us. We become what we repeatedly tell ourselves. Your inner dialogue is not background noise. It is programming. It shapes your mood, your posture, your decisions, and eventually your entire life. So if you want to change your experience, you must start by changing your tone inside. Ask yourself, if someone else spoke to me the way I speak to myself, would I stay in that room or would I walk away? For many people, the voice inside is not a friend. It is a critic, a bully, a saboteur disguised as a coach, and yet we allow it to narrate every moment of our life without ever interrupting it. That needs to end. Because here is the truth. You can train your inner voice. You can rewrite your inner language. You can decide starting today that you will no longer accept disrespect from the one voice you hear the most, your own. It starts by becoming aware. Notice the patterns. When do you tear yourself down? When do you say, I always mess up, or I am not good at this, or why do I even try? Catch those moments, not to punish yourself, but to interrupt the script. Then ask yourself, whose voice is that? Because many of our negative loops were not born from wisdom, they were inherited. A parent's harsh tone, a teacher's dismissive comment, a failure from years ago that we never forgave ourselves for. You do not owe those voices your obedience. You can hear them and still choose to speak differently to yourself now. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And nowhere is that more true than in the conversations we have with ourselves when no one is watching. So change the conversation. That does not mean pretending everything is fine. That does not mean lying to yourself. It means being fair to yourself. It means becoming the kind of inner voice that corrects without condemning, that guides without guilt, that motivates without shaming. Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself? Would you say, "You always fail. You are never enough. What is wrong with you?" Of course not. So why tolerate it from yourself? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That includes the power to change the words in your head, to go from self-attack to self-awareness, from self-pity to self-command, from scattered inner noise to calm inner clarity. You can begin right now. The next time you fail, replace "I am such an idiot" with "I made a mistake and I can learn from it." The next time you are afraid, replace "I cannot handle this" with "This is hard, but I have faced hard things before." The next time you are unsure, replace "I am not ready" with "I will show up and grow through it." Do you see what happens? Same moment, same situation, but a different inner narrative. And that changes everything. Because the stories you tell yourself become the stories you live. The tone inside becomes the posture outside. You cannot fake confidence while tearing yourself down internally. But you can build confidence by rebuilding how you speak to yourself, slowly, honestly, consistently. So create a new voice. Train it like a muscle, catch the old scripts, challenge the voice of fear, interrupt the voice of shame. Replace it with your own voice, but kinder, wiser, stronger. At first, it will feel strange, too gentle, too soft. You may even resist it, but that is because you are used to being at war with yourself. Peace will feel unfamiliar until it becomes your new home. If you are still here, still listening, then this is your invitation. Speak to yourself with the same respect you seek from the world. Speak to yourself with the same steadiness you wish others had given you. Be the inner voice you always needed, because no one will hear your thoughts more than you do. And if your inner voice becomes clear, calm, and grounded, there is no storm outside you cannot face. Let us be honest. Most of our suffering does not come from what happens. It comes from what we think should have happened, from the outcome we imagined, from the story we told ourselves about how things were supposed to go. You loved someone who left. You worked hard and still failed. You gave your best and it was not enough. And then the thoughts begin, why me? What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? But here is what the Stoics knew: you cannot control outcomes. You can only control effort and your response. Everything else, it is wind, it is weather, it is noise. Trying to control it is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through. So instead of clinging, they practiced something far more powerful: detachment. Now let me be clear. Detachment is not indifference. It is not apathy. It is not emotional numbness. Detachment means I will give my full heart, but I will not let the result own me. It means I will feel everything, but I will not become everything I feel. It means I will show up with intention, but I will release the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, illness, and death. And still he reminded himself, do not let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Stick with the present situation and ask yourself, why is this so unbearable? Usually the answer is, it is not. What is unbearable is your resistance. That is where detachment begins, by letting go of resistance. It is not that you stop feeling. You stop fighting the feeling. You let it rise. You let it move through you. You let it teach you, and then you let it leave, just like a wave. The Stoics believed we must love what is, amor fati. Love fate not because it is always easy, but because fighting reality only adds unnecessary pain. Detachment says, I can be in pain without becoming bitter. I can grieve without becoming hopeless. I can fail without becoming a failure. You are not here to control the ocean. You are here to learn how to surf it. You are here to strengthen your balance, to build inner stillness even as the world around you shifts. And when you do, when you stop needing things to go your way in order to feel peace, you become untouchable. How do you practice this? Start with this mantra: this is outside of my control, but how I meet it, that is mine. Repeat that when plans fall through, when people change, when feelings overwhelm you. Do not deny the emotion. Observe it, welcome it, and then ask, is this thought helping me? Is this emotion calling me to action or just to reaction? Can I hold this gently and let it pass? You can care deeply and still let go. You can show up fully and still release attachment. And over time, something incredible happens. You stop fearing outcomes. You stop needing guarantees. You stop living in the future and start standing firmly in the now. That presence, it radiates. People feel it. You stop clinging. You stop chasing. You start moving with a calm that says, I will show up. I will give, but I will not lose myself trying to control what is never mine. That is real strength, because anyone can try to force things, but it takes inner power to surrender with grace. If you are still here listening, then you are someone who is ready to stop being ruled by what you cannot control. You are ready to become the kind of person who walks through storms not untouched, but undisturbed. That is what Stoic detachment gives you. Not distance from life, but freedom within it. Some people break at the first sign of pressure. Others bend but do not shatter. They feel pain but do not collapse. They fall but always rise. What makes the difference? It is not luck. It is not genetics. It is not that their life is easier. It is resilience, not the kind you are born with, the kind you build through hardship, through discipline, through choosing to get back up when everything inside you wants to give in. Emotional resilience is not about being unbothered. It is about being unbroken. It is not the absence of struggle. It is your capacity to carry the weight without letting it break your spirit. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They did not try to avoid adversity. They trained for it. They saw pain not as punishment, but as preparation. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, hard times are not in your way. They are your training ground. So how do you build that kind of mind? It begins with one powerful shift. Stop avoiding discomfort. Start meeting it on purpose. Most people waste their energy trying to stay safe, to stay comfortable, to stay untouched. But the mind, like the body, only grows when it is tested, when it is stretched, when it is challenged and still holds. Every moment that pushes you is a chance to become someone stronger, not just someone who survives life, but someone who becomes anti-fragile, who grows because of the pressure, not in spite of it. You get there by practicing in the small moments. You choose the difficult conversation instead of avoidance. You face the fear instead of fleeing. You sit with sadness instead of numbing it. You breathe through discomfort instead of reacting from it. And in that space between stimulus and response, resilience is born. It is a quiet kind of strength. No one sees it. No one applauds it. But you feel it. You feel it when something goes wrong and you no longer spiral. You feel it when a negative thought arises and you say, "Not today." You feel it when the same storm hits, but this time you stay grounded. That is not luck. That is training. That is mental armor forged from the fire of hard-earned awareness. And yes, resilience means you will still feel. You will still hurt. You will still doubt. But you do not collapse under it anymore. Because you have learned that your feelings are not your fate. They are signals. They are passing weather. You do not deny them. You do not drown in them. You acknowledge them and then you act from wisdom, not wounds. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That is not just philosophy. That is emotional resilience in action. When you change the meaning, you change the impact. And when you change your internal response, you reclaim your power. So here is your practice. When stress hits pause, do not react. Breathe. Ask, what is within my control right now? If it is not your responsibility, release it. If it is, respond not emotionally, but intentionally. Do not run from the discomfort. Use it. Let it sharpen your awareness. Let it train your focus. Let it reveal what still needs healing inside you. That is how you become the kind of person who can be shaken but never shattered. And when the people around you begin to notice your calm in chaos, your clarity in conflict, your groundedness in grief, they will ask, "How are you like this?" And you will smile because you will know. You did not become unshakable by accident. You chose it, one difficult moment at a time. If you are still listening, then you are ready to stop running from difficulty. You are ready to stop waiting for life to get easier and start becoming stronger. You are ready to stop reacting and start responding from a deeper place. That place is resilience, and once you build it, no one can take it from you. There is a kind of confidence that speaks loudly. It brags, it dominates, it interrupts, it seeks attention, approval, applause. And then there is another kind, a quieter one that does not need the room to notice, because it already knows who it is. This is calm confidence. The difference is subtle but life-changing. Arrogance is rooted in insecurity. It needs constant validation. It feels threatened by silence, by disagreement, by anyone who challenges it. It wears confidence like a costume, fragile, loud, and always cracking. But real confidence, Stoic confidence, is different. It is silent. It is stable. It is built from the inside out. It does not demand the spotlight. It carries its own light. How do you build that? You stop trying to be impressive and start becoming grounded. You stop asking, how can I look confident, and start asking, what kind of person do I want to be when no one is watching? Because the truly confident do not prove. They do not perform. They know. Not in a way that screams, in a way that stands still. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Arrogance believes it already knows. Confidence stays curious. Arrogance pushes others down. Confidence lifts others up. Arrogance speaks often. Confidence listens more. Confidence is not a personality, it is a practice. You build it not through words, but through action. By keeping promises to yourself, by doing hard things when no one sees, by failing and showing up again, by knowing that your worth is not hanging on someone else's reaction. Real confidence comes from alignment, when who you are inside matches how you show up outside, when your values lead the way, when your actions speak more than your image. So what does that look like? You walk into a room not needing to dominate it, but to contribute to it. You speak not to sound smart, but to serve clarity. You are not afraid of being wrong. You are afraid of staying fake. And in relationships, you do not cling. You do not manipulate. You do not pretend. You show up as yourself fully. And if they stay, they stay. If they do not, you let them go with grace. Because confidence does not beg, it chooses. Confidence is not loud, it is stable. It is that steady voice inside you that says, I know who I am. I know what I stand for. And I do not need you to approve for it to be true. You cultivate it by living in alignment, by doing the thing you fear even if your voice shakes, by facing failure without losing dignity, by standing your ground not in anger, but in clarity. And when you do, people notice. They may not know why they are drawn to you, but they will feel it. Your presence will speak for you. If you are still listening, then you are not here to be the loudest in the room. You are here to be the most real, the most steady, the most authentic version of yourself. That is the kind of confidence that lasts, that does not fade when attention leaves, that does not collapse under pressure. You are not building a mask, you are building a core. And the stronger that core becomes, the less you need from the world. Because the world cannot give you what you already carry within. Have you ever been misunderstood, blamed, or judged for something that had nothing to do with you? Maybe someone lashed out at you during a peaceful moment. Maybe they accused you of intentions you never had. Maybe their words cut deep and you were left wondering, where did that even come from? That right there is what projection looks like. It is when someone throws their own pain, fears, or insecurities onto you, hoping unconsciously that it will make their burden lighter. But here is the truth. It never does. All it does is confuse the innocent and delay the healing of the wounded. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. Epictetus said, when someone does you wrong, it is because they believe they are right. It is their view, not the truth. In other words, their opinion of you is not always a mirror. It is often a screen. And on that screen, they are projecting their inner movie, the one they never pause to watch closely. So how do you respond? You do not absorb. You do not react. You do not carry what is not yours. You stay grounded. Because if you do not, you will begin to doubt yourself. You will begin to wonder, maybe I am what they say. And that slowly, silently, is how you lose your center. Here is what grounding looks like. You feel the sting of the words. You acknowledge it. And then you ask yourself, is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, you let it pass. You do not internalize someone else's storm. You observe it from the shore. You say to yourself, this energy is not mine. This narrative is not mine. Their pain is real, but I will not become the container for it. You hold your ground not by attacking back, but by remaining clear. That clarity, that calm is what makes you powerful, because it is easy to be shaken when someone attacks your name, your character, your intentions, but it is mastery to remain still and say, I know who I am, and I do not need to fight every battle to prove it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed. Do not feel harmed, and you have not been." It is not denial, it is discernment. It is choosing not to take offense where there is only projection. You are not avoiding responsibility. You are refusing to carry what was never yours to begin with. So what do you do when someone throws their chaos at you? You breathe, you ground, you remember their reaction is about their wounds, not your worth. You protect your peace not by building walls, but by building filters. You decide what gets in. You decide what stays out. You observe their tone, but you listen to your own truth. You do not match their volume. You raise your clarity. You do not shout over their storm. You return to your stillness, and you move forward not bitter, but clean. Because real strength is not found in retaliation. It is found in the refusal to become reactive. It is found in the choice to respond with wisdom instead of wounds. That is how you stay grounded, not by never being hit, but by never letting the hit define you. If someone tells you that you are selfish, it may be their pain speaking. If someone accuses you of being cold, it may be their unmet need echoing. If someone calls you distant, it may be their fear of abandonment projected onto you. And yet none of that changes who you are unless you allow it to. You can remain loving without over-explaining. You can remain kind without being a sponge for emotional chaos. You can remain strong without being hard. That is the art of emotional sovereignty. And if you are still here listening, then like me, you have felt this weight before. You have carried guilt that was not yours. You have apologized for things you never did. You have twisted yourself into someone smaller just to avoid triggering someone else's pain. But those days are ending now, because you are learning to separate your truth from their trauma, your clarity from their chaos, your self-worth from their story. From this moment on, remember, not every projection is your problem. Not every opinion is your mirror. And not every attack is worth your peace. You are allowed to walk away clean. Your body can be still. Your voice can be quiet. But your mind, it can be loud enough to drown everything else. It replays the past. It rehearses the future. It asks 1,000 what-ifs and never gives an answer. It spins problems that do not exist, then convinces you they are urgent. This is overthinking, and if you have lived inside it, you know how exhausting it is. It feels like you are solving something, but really you are suffering something. It feels like control, but really it is chaos with a mask on. The Stoics had a word for this rumination. Marcus Aurelius wrote often to himself not to chase thoughts, but to tame them. He reminded himself again and again, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So how do we stop overthinking? Not by controlling every thought, not by trying to silence the mind by force, but by changing our relationship to thought itself. The first mistake most people make is believing that thinking equals action, that if you analyze enough, you will feel better. But the truth is, you do not think your way out of mental noise. You breathe your way through it. You ground yourself in the body. You return to the present. The present is where the noise dissolves, because the mind cannot obsess over 10 different futures when you are focused only on this breath, this movement, this exact moment. Try it now. Feel your feet. Take a breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Notice how the mind begins to slow, not because you fought it, but because you brought it home. This is what the Stoics practiced, returning again and again to what is within reach, to what is real, not the hypothetical, not the imaginary, but the now. Because overthinking lives in imaginary futures and dead pasts. Stillness lives in now. Here is a truth most never hear. You do not need to have everything figured out to take the next step. You just need to return to what is real. Ask yourself, what is the next honest action I can take? What is the next small thing that moves me forward? What is one thing I can release right now that is not mine to control? These questions bring you back to presence, back to clarity, back to your own breath. Overthinking is a habit, and like any habit, it can be retrained. Instead of letting the mind wander endlessly, you begin to guide it. Not with force, with compassion. You speak to your own thoughts like a teacher would to a restless child. Come back. We are not going there right now. That path is worry, not wisdom. You may need to do this 100 times a day. That is okay. Stillness is not a one-time event. It is a practice of returning again and again to the present moment until the present becomes your home. Let your inner stillness become stronger than your need for answers. Let your calm become louder than your fears. Let your breath remind you that peace was never far away. It was just buried under noise. If you are still here, still listening, then I know this noise has visited you too. You have stayed up at night trying to find the perfect decision. You have replayed conversations, rewritten endings, imagined disasters that never came. But you are learning now that overthinking is not clarity. It is confusion in disguise, and you are done confusing yourself. From now on, every time your thoughts spiral, you will pause. You will breathe. You will ask, where am I now? What do I know for sure? What can I choose in this moment? That is how you return, not once, but every time. Because stillness is not something you find. It is something you return to. And each return makes it easier the next time. Some days the world moves too fast. You open your phone and the noise begins. Messages, headlines, expectations, demands. You step outside and there are people rushing, traffic roaring, time slipping. And inside your thoughts are not much quieter. They spin, they race, they want control. And you think, how can I find peace in the middle of all this? But here is the truth. Most people never hear. Peace is not found in the world. It is built within you. The Stoics understood this deeply. They lived through war, exile, betrayal, and death. And yet their journals, their private thoughts speak of stillness, of clarity, of something deeper than comfort. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That is not poetry. That is practice. Because real peace does not mean the chaos ends. It means the chaos no longer owns you. Most people live their lives waiting for things to calm down, waiting for others to understand, waiting for the schedule to lighten the conflict, to end the storm, to pass. But peace built on perfect conditions is not peace. It is dependency in disguise. True peace, the kind that holds in any storm, begins when you stop trying to control everything outside and start mastering everything inside. And that begins with one shift. Make your mind a temple, not a battlefield. That means observing your thoughts without war, letting emotions rise without resistance, letting go of the need to always be right, always be first, always be seen. Stillness comes not from isolation, but from intention. You can sit in a quiet room and still feel like you are drowning, and you can walk through a storm and feel untouched if your center is clear. So how do you build that? You begin by choosing what you allow into your inner world. Not every opinion deserves space. Not every conversation requires a reaction. Not every invitation to conflict is worth accepting. Say to yourself, if this does not serve my peace, I will let it pass. Because every time you say no to noise, you say yes to clarity. Seneca once said, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Peace is your port, so stop being tossed by every wave. Build anchors. Start your day with breath, not your phone. End your day with reflection, not scrolling. Speak less when you are emotional. Listen more when others are reactive. Create silence not just outside, but within. It may feel unnatural at first, like you are doing nothing. But silence is not nothing. Silence is space, and in that space, truth has room to rise. The next time life gets loud, ask yourself, what part of this is truly mine to carry? What can I choose to release right now? What would a peaceful version of me do in this moment? Because peace is a choice repeated again and again until it becomes who you are. Not once, not perfect, but practiced. Over time, you will notice something powerful. The world will still be loud, but it will no longer pull you under. You will feel the difference between urgency and importance. You will know how to respond instead of react. You will carry your own atmosphere wherever you go. If someone attacks you, you will respond with clarity, not defensiveness. If the plan falls apart, you will adjust, not collapse. If emotions rise, you will breathe, not break. That is peace, not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of inner order. And if you are still here, still listening, then you are ready. Not to escape chaos, but to lead yourself through it. Not to wait for silence, but to become it. Peace was never meant to be found. It was meant to be built from the inside out. And the ones who build it, they do not walk faster, they walk deeper. They are not louder, they are lighter. They are not untouched by life. They are unmoved by noise. If you are still listening, then like me, you have realized that chasing peace outside never works. Maybe you have tried fixing others, changing plans, earning rest. But now you are learning it was never out there. It was always in here. And now that you know that the world can be chaos and you can still be calm, every day someone or something is trying to lead you. Notifications, advertisements, opinions, emotions, they all compete for your attention, your time, your choices, and most people they follow without knowing it. They follow cravings, they follow fears, they follow the mood of the moment, and then they wonder why their life feels chaotic, scattered, directionless. But the truth is harsh and freeing. If you do not lead yourself, something else will. This is why the Stoics were obsessed not with controlling others, but with mastering themselves. They knew that self-leadership is not about controlling the world. It is about governing your own soul. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And he meant that literally. Freedom is not found in doing whatever you feel. It is found in the discipline to choose what serves you, even when it is not what feels good. Self-discipline is not punishment, it is power. It is not about restriction, it is about direction. When you lead yourself, you do not need motivation. You have commitment. You do not wait to feel like it. You act because your actions are no longer ruled by how you feel. That is what separates the lost from the focused, the passive from the powerful, the average from the aligned. And here is where it starts. You decide clearly who you want to become, then you begin acting like that person today, not tomorrow, not when it is easy. Today, right now, in the face of discomfort, fatigue, distraction. Because anyone can lead when things are simple, but you are learning to lead when the mind resists, when the body aches, when the emotions scream, and still you rise. That is the root of self-respect, not self-esteem, not affirmation, but the quiet, steady knowing I can count on myself. You want confidence. Build it by keeping your word. You want strength. Build it by showing up when it is hardest. You want inner peace. Build it by doing what needs to be done, not what feels easy. Self-leadership is not found in big speeches. It is found in the small, invisible choices. Waking up when you said you would, speaking the truth when lying would be easier, walking away from what drains you even if it is familiar, saying no not because you want to hurt, but because you refuse to betray yourself. You will fail at times. You will slip, but that does not matter. What matters is the return. The moment you choose to step back into alignment even after falling. Because that is the real discipline, not perfection, but persistence. Self-leadership means you stop outsourcing your decisions. You stop waiting for permission. You stop asking others to validate your path. You walk it, and you walk it with clarity, not because it is easy, but because it is yours. And yes, there will be days when your feelings rebel, when excuses feel seductive, when quitting looks like relief. But in those moments, pause. Ask yourself, what would the version of me I admire do right now? Then do that. No matter how small, because every time you choose your highest over your easiest, you lead. And others may never see that battle, but you will feel it in your breath, in your decisions, in your sense of calm at the end of the day. That is what it means to live with inner authority, not just reacting to life, but designing it. And if you are still here, still listening, then I know this matters to you. You are done living on autopilot. You are done being pushed by feelings and pulled by noise. You are ready to step into leadership, not of others, but of the only person you will always be responsible for yourself. So lead. Start where you are. Keep showing up. Make your actions louder than your doubts. And let the world feel what happens when someone moves not from impulse, but from integrity. There is a moment so small, so quiet, that most people miss it completely. It happens between the trigger and the reaction, between the offense and the outburst, between what they said and what you do next. That space, tiny as it may seem, is where all your power lives. Because in that space you get to choose. Do you react from emotion or respond from clarity? Do you attack or do you anchor? Do you lose yourself or do you remember who you are? Most people never pause long enough to ask. They live in constant reaction, react to stress, react to tone, react to opinions, and then they wonder why life feels like a storm they cannot control. But the truth is, it is not life that is out of control. It is their responses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." In other words, it is not what happens. It is what you make it mean. And what you make it mean determines how you show up. So how do you master your reactions? You build a new habit, the pause. The pause is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is not silence out of fear. It is strength, choosing not to let someone else's chaos dictate your character. It is stillness, giving yourself a breath before you burn a bridge. It is clarity, creating space between impulse and action, between anger and truth. The pause gives you perspective, and perspective gives you power. You no longer say things you regret. You no longer become who you are, not just because the moment pulled you. You no longer give away your peace for a point you did not even need to prove. You breathe, you feel, you choose. That is response, not reaction. Reaction is instinctual, automatic, animal. Response is intentional, conscious, human. When someone disrespects you, you do not react to match their level. You respond to protect your own. When circumstances overwhelm you, you do not collapse. You assess, adjust, and move forward one clear step at a time. This is not about suppressing emotions. The Stoics never taught emotional denial. They taught emotional discipline. Feel everything, but do not let everything you feel become everything you do. Hold the emotion in one hand, hold your values in the other. Then act not from the fire, but from the foundation. You will not always get it right. Sometimes you will snap. Sometimes the pause will be too late. That is okay. Because mastery is not about perfection. It is about shortening the distance between reaction and response, about catching yourself faster, about returning to alignment sooner. It is a practice, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until one day what used to trigger you deeply barely stirs you, not because you do not care, but because you have grown too stable to be shaken by surface waves. You stop being a puppet pulled by strings of emotion. You become the one holding the strings. And if people ask, "Why are you so calm?" the answer will be simple. Because I do not give my power away that easily anymore. If you are still here, still listening, then I know this lesson is landing. You are tired of being reactive, tired of letting emotions run the show, tired of apologizing for actions that were never aligned with who you truly are. And now you are ready to pause, to breathe, to act from principle, not pressure. That is what Stoic strength looks like. It does not scream. It does not rush. It does not need to be right. It simply chooses with presence, with clarity, with unwavering calm. Some people walk into a room and demand attention. Others walk in and change the atmosphere without saying a word. They do not speak loudly. They do not try to impress. They do not compete. Yet somehow they are unforgettable. That is what it means to be a quiet force. The Stoics never preached for the spotlight. They built strength so deep it needed no announcement. They understood that the greatest influence comes not from being heard, but from being felt. Seneca wrote, "What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." He did not say what you say. He said what you do. Because people forget noise, but they remember presence. They remember how calm you stayed when everything around you was chaos. They remember how you listened when no one else did. They remember how you chose truth when lies would have been easier. To become a quiet force is not to shrink. It is to center. You walk with clarity. You speak with care. You act with integrity, even when no one is watching. And you become someone others look to, not because you shout directions, but because you are already walking the path. Leadership does not always look like leading the crowd. Sometimes it looks like leading yourself in silence and letting others follow the trail of your example. You want to be a force in someone's life. Then be steady when they are shaking. Be kind when they are bitter. Be patient when they are rushed. Be still when they are spiraling. This does not mean you fix them. It means you do not join their storm. You become a lighthouse, not a rescue boat. You stand tall, you shine quietly, and those who are ready will find their way because of your light. But you do not do it for praise. You do it because it is who you are. You do it because you remember what it was like to be lost. And now you choose to be an anchor for yourself and for others. To be a quiet force is to know. Influence is not about volume. It is about vibration. What energy do you carry into a room? What do people feel when they leave your presence? Because that speaks louder than words ever could. And here is the truth. The world does not need more noise. It needs more depth, more clarity, more stillness, more people who are not trying to be everything, just being real. When you are that person, you create a ripple. Your discipline inspires. Your calm gives permission. Your presence becomes a mirror, and others begin to see what is possible in themselves. If someone is watching you, they will learn more from your stillness than your speeches. If someone is hurting, they will heal more from your consistency than your advice. If someone is doubting, they will borrow your faith until they build their own. That is the kind of power no one can fake. And if you are still listening, then I believe you already are that kind of person, or you are becoming one. You are tired of performing, tired of proving, tired of being loud just to be heard. Now you are ready to influence from the inside out, not by what you demand, but by what you embody. So keep showing up. Keep being solid when others are shaking. Keep letting your presence speak for itself. And trust those who are ready for your light will feel it even in silence. One day your name will be spoken for the last time. Your voice will no longer echo in the places you used to walk. The people you loved will carry only memories of you, and all the things you worried about, they will fade, just like dust in the wind. That is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up. Because the truth is, we are all running out of time, and most people live like they are not. They postpone, procrastinate, pretend. They wait for the right time, the perfect plan, the clear sign. But the Stoics asked one thing again and again: what if today were your last? Not to be morbid, to be clear, to cut through the noise, the drama, the excuses, and bring you back to what matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This was not fear, it was fuel. Because when you remember that you are mortal, you stop wasting time on the trivial. You stop seeking validation. You stop letting fear choose your future. You start living not later, now, fully, intentionally. You look at your life and ask, am I proud of how I am spending my time? Would I want this moment to be part of my legacy? Is this action aligned with the kind of human being I want to be remembered as? If the answer is no, you change. Not tomorrow, today. Because this is not a rehearsal. This is your life. Every morning you are handed a blank page, and one day you will run out of pages. What will your story say? Did you shrink? Or did you show up? Did you chase comfort? Or did you build courage? Did you let fear write your script? Or did you take the pen back? It does not take a perfect life to leave an impact. It takes an honest one built not on performance but on presence. So what if you stopped trying to be liked and started being real? What if you stopped chasing more and started living deeply with what you already have? What if you let go of trying to prove your worth and started living like you already had it? Because you do. Your existence right now is not an accident. It is not random. You were given this moment, this breath, this day for a reason. Do not waste it. Let your life mean something. Let your words be honest. Let your work be purposeful. Let your relationships be intentional. Love with both hands. Listen with your whole heart. Leave people better than you found them. And when it gets hard, and it will, remember, hard is not a reason to stop. It is a reason to go deeper. You are not here to coast. You are here to create, to contribute, to live like you were meant to be here. So take a deep breath, look around, and ask yourself, if I keep living like this, where does it lead? If the answer is unclear, make a shift, even a small one. Because small shifts done daily create massive lives. This is your moment. This is your time. You do not need more certainty. You need more courage. Courage to lead, to speak, to begin again, to become the version of you that looks back one day and says, yes, I lived well, I lived true, I lived like it mattered. Because it does. You do. If you are still listening, then this message was not just content. It was a mirror, a reminder, a call back to yourself. You already have the wisdom. Now comes the choice. Live like it means something, because it always has.
If this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Write one thing down that you'll start doing this week. 2025 doesn't magically change anything you do. And your future begins the moment you decide to move, even just a little.